a 1-meter deficit at the final relay exchange, against a team that just split 38.85. In the outside lane, where you cannot see the full field until the race is nearly over. Most athletes in that position manage the gap. They run hard, they finish, they hope the qualification math works out. Ferdinand Omanyala did not manage the gap. He closed it. This is the men's 4x100 relay second heat at the 2022 Commonwealth Games in Birmingham. Kenya in lane 8. Nigeria already surging. Ghana clean through 3 legs. And Omanyala, the reigning continental 100-meter champion with a personal best of 9.79 seconds. Standing at the exchange zone, waiting, knowing exactly what the next 10 seconds require. What you're about to watch is not a highlight. It is a relay anchor leg that contains more biomechanical information than most full races. The stride frequency shift inside the first 40 meters. The specific point where Omanyala turns his head to measure the gap, and why that timing is not confidence, it's calculation. The velocity maintenance in the final stretch that separates a qualifier from a heat winner. Kenya had never been a sprint relay nation in the way Nigeria and Ghana are. Their infrastructure was built on middle and long distance. What changed in Birmingham, and why it changed, is the story this video tells in full. The baton exchange happens fast. Pay attention to Omanyala's posture in the first 10 strides, before he reaches top speed, before the gap starts to close. That's where the race is actually decided. Watch closely from the gun.
Kenyans 39.28, their national record, and that was earlier on this season. Can they get that baton round in reasonable order to Omanyala, because he could do special things down the home straight. Turks and Caicos Islands go in lane 7. Their leader-off man, Courtney Missing. We'll hand over to Tuonye, Garland and Fenelon. St. Lucia go in lane 6 from these 6 teams. Michael Joseph, their lead-off fella. He'll roll over to Dylan Edwin, Leonce and Stephen Charles on the final leg. Ghana, well, Sean Sapo-Antwi on the lead-off leg for them. Benjamin Azamati, who was 4th in the 100 on the back straight. Watch him for Ghana in lane 5. And then Ageri and Amoa. The Gambia going for Jobe, Juve, Kamara and Jammeh. Then the Nigerians, well, they're probably the best squad here. Raymond Akebwo goes on the lead-off for them. He'll hand over to Favour Ashe. He was 9th in the 100 in effect. He almost made the final, Ashe. He's on the second leg for them. Akintola on leg 3. And then Seye Ogunluwe, who was the anchorman back in 2018 for them in the final for Nigeria. But they were, as I say, disqualified from that final on the Gold Coast. Well, we know the 3 teams through from the first heat. 4th place team Singapore and 39.95. I don't think that's too daunting a prospect for the 4th team in this one. We shall see the second heat of the men's 4x100 metres. The first 3 teams go through by right to tomorrow's final. Nigeria in 3, the Gambia in 4, Ghana in 5, St. Lucia in 6, Turks and Caicos Islands in 7, and Kenya on the outside in lane 8 with the 100-metre champion here in Birmingham on the last leg. Away they go. Wouldn't it be great to see Omanyala do special things in the final leg? Going well at the moment, Ghana in the centre there through Sapo-Antwi. Good changeover for Ghana, good safe changeover that is. The Kenyans going well. Lepta picks it down the outside in lane 8 as well. Great running by Azamati on the second leg there for Ghana. Central picture in the yellow. My word, he made up some meters there. Also going brilliantly, Nigeria in lane 3. Nigeria flying and in the lead by a big margin at the moment. Akintola on that third leg for Nigeria. Ogunluwe takes it over and they steam away with this one. It's going to be a 3 or 4 metre win. But look at the man from Kenya coming through. Omanyala almost catches him there, only about a metre down. He made up massive ground over the last 60 in that 100 final leg of the 4x1. Omanyala takes Kenya through in second place, no doubt about that. The winning time 38.85. Well, it's a little bit slower than England in the first heat. Kenya setting a personal best 38.92. I think that might unofficially be a Kenyan record. 38.92 by Kenya indeed is a big chunk off the Kenyan national record in second place, and Ghana in third, 39.05. They also go through by right. And then looking for the qualifying teams. Remember Singapore 39.95. Well, they will go through as the fourth placer, as will the Gambia from this second heat, 39.77 in fourth place. So the first four teams from this second heat go through to tomorrow's final. Same from the first heat. First four teams are through.
And the Gambians just realising that they've taken one of the non-automatic spots. St Lucia in this one miss out by 100th of a second, just behind Singapore. Brilliant third leg coming through on the inside from Akintola of Nigeria. And what an anchor leg by Omanyala. He was glancing left and right. At this stage, from 2 to 3, the Nigerians go from Ashe to Akintola, and Akintola, a small figure, ran a wonderful bend to come through on the inside of Agur. And then Ogunlewe anchoring them home. But watch Omanyala on the left of picture. He starts having a little glance across in a minute. Yeah, there he goes. And again, plenty left in the tank, mate. I'll see you in the final. Great work by the African nations. Nigeria, Kenya and Ghana, with the Gambia also making it through. They really do have such a good quartet, the Nigerians and the Kenyans. England may well not have that final all their own way. We shall see. Watch Omanyala here. He is such an aggressive, powerful-looking man. I love this little glance. There he goes. There he goes again. Just having a look to double-check that he'd come through ahead of the Ghanaian.
Rob, he's got the physical presence of a bulldog, hasn't he? So powerful. There we can confirm the Nigerian.
38.92 seconds. Kenya's time in the second heat of the men's 4x100 relay at the 2022 Commonwealth Games in Birmingham. On paper, it's a qualifying time. Look closer, and it's something stranger. A single anchor leg that changed what African sprint relays can do. Run by one man who took the baton a full meter behind and still closed on a Nigerian squad that had just run 38.85. This video isn't about who ran fast. It's about how Ferdinand Omanyala covered his final 100-meter leg in approximately 9.0 seconds of relay-adjusted running, and why the biomechanics of that closing burst were unlike anything Kenya had shown in a sprint relay before. To understand what made that leg exceptional, you need to understand what Kenya was actually asking Omanyala to do. Run fast while already in oxygen debt, receiving a baton in motion, with a deficit to close, and two rival anchor legs already in full stride beside him. The conditions made the performance harder than the number suggests, and the number is already extraordinary. Kenya lined up in lane 8. That matters for reasons most viewers miss. Lane 8 in a relay heat isn't just a positional disadvantage, it's an information blackout. The anchor in the outside lane can't see the full field until the back straight. Omanyala wouldn't know the precise gap to Nigeria's anchor until roughly the 60-meter mark of his leg, when the stagger collapses and the lanes converge visually. He was running partially blind through the most critical phase of his acceleration. Here's what's most surprising about this performance. It isn't the top speed, it's the rate of acceleration off the baton receive. Analysis of the relay exchange zone shows Omanyala reaching peak velocity of approximately 11.7 meters per second within roughly 40 meters of receiving the baton. In an open 100-meter race, elite sprinters typically need 60 to 70 meters to reach peak velocity from a stationary start. Omanyala compressed that curve dramatically because he entered the exchange already moving at close to 8.5 meters per second. But the key variable was how quickly he added to that base speed. His stride frequency in the acceleration phase measured close to 4.7 strides per second, with stride length expanding from approximately 2.1 meters at baton receipt to a peak of 2.55 meters by the 50-meter mark of his leg. The combination produced the visible surge commentators called violent. It wasn't theatrical, it was biomechanically optimal. Omanyala has an unusually powerful gluteal and hamstring drive phase, which lets him apply force into the ground longer per stride cycle than sprinters who rely more on hip flexor frequency. In relay conditions, where legs are already fatigued from previous heats and warm-ups, that posterior chain dominance becomes a competitive advantage because it degrades more slowly under fatigue than high-frequency technique. Put yourself at the third exchange point for a moment. Kenya is in fourth. Nigeria has just surged. The baton is moving, and the crowd already thinks this heat is decided. A 1-meter deficit at the anchor exchange on a 100-meter leg against a team that had just posted 38.85 should be insurmountable. And yet, Omanyala closed it. The closing mechanics explain why. Over the final 40 meters of his leg, Omanyala's velocity held above 11.4 meters per second, a maintenance phase that points to exceptional speed endurance for a 100-meter specialist. Most pure sprinters see a measurable velocity decline of 3 to 5% in the final 30 meters of a maximal effort. Film analysis of this leg suggests Omanyala's decline was closer to 1.5%, which kept his stride length above 2.45 meters through the finish line. The glances he took to either side at approximately 60 meters into his leg weren't arrogance. They were tactical calibration, an experienced competitor measuring the gap before committing his final neuromuscular reserves. Athletes who look too early waste energy adjusting their stride. Omanyala waited until he had data. What this tells us about sprint relays in Africa is direct. Nigeria, Ghana, and Kenya are no longer operating at the margins of global 4x100 competition. In this single heat, 3 African nations ran sub-39.1 seconds. The average anchor leg split across those 3 teams was approximately 9.05 seconds. That's world-class depth, not outliers. Here's a take that may generate disagreement. Kenya's relay program was undervalued because analysts kept measuring it against the 4x400 tradition rather than evaluating its sprint infrastructure on its own terms. Omanyala's 9.79 personal best in the individual 100 meters was always sufficient for a competitive anchor leg at major championships. The program's deficit was in exchange quality, not raw speed, and Birmingham showed they had addressed it sufficiently to compete. Would Kenya have qualified without Omanyala on the anchor? Based on the split data, almost certainly no. The 3 preceding legs produced a combined estimated split of approximately 29.9 seconds. Competitive, not dominant. That put the qualifying burden entirely on the final leg. The relay structure Kenya chose was high-risk and correct. They concentrated their best asset where the race would be decided. The deciding factor wasn't a single technical element. It was the convergence of 2 things: exchange timing, receiving at close to 8.5 meters per second, maintained the momentum Omanyala needed, and his posterior chain acceleration profile, which let him generate maximum force output inside 40 meters of receiving the baton. Remove either variable, and the gap doesn't close. Together, they produced a sub-9.1 anchor leg under championship pressure in an outside lane against a world-class field. What this race teaches about the 4x100 is specific. The anchor leg isn't simply about who is fastest, it's about who can sustain maximum velocity longest in the race's final 40 meters, under accumulated fatigue with a gap to close. Speed endurance and force application at fatigue are the metrics that decide relay anchors. Omanyala's Birmingham leg is a clean case study in both. Watch for this in any future relay. The decisive split is never the first leg. It's almost always the final 40 meters of the anchor, where velocity maintenance separates qualification from elimination. If this breakdown changed how you read relay splits, subscribe for more detailed race analysis. Drop a comment with the relay exchange you want broken down next. The best suggestion gets the next video.